to the page. Live stream. All righty, hello everybody. Welcome to, here we go. Welcome to Sisters Rocking Courage. We are doing a different type of courageous conversation today. I apologize for being a few minutes late, but all is good. Had some things going on here. Today. I apologize for being a few minutes late. That's the wrong way to do that. It's just going to be one of those days, Jodi, so we're just going to see how it rolls. My name is Barbara Bolton Schreiber. For those who don't know me, I founded Sisters Rocking Courage to help mission-driven entrepreneurs who wanted to, well, actually mission-driven, ambitious women who wanted to create something, create a legacy of sorts, create a business that spreads hope, makes an impact, and achieves financial independence. It's so important. I worked in nonprofit for 25 years, raising money and really working through the branding. How do we let people know succinctly what it is that we do so we know that we can attract the right people to us and create more value to make that impact? So that's what we do at Sisters Rocking Courage, and we do it through community. And that's why these conversations are so important. So if you want to join a community of women that are kicking it in business and really figuring out how to make a greater impact in the world, do follow, join Sisters Rocking Courage on Clubhouse, Facebook. We even have a little bit on Instagram. Today, I'm talking with Jodi, and we're going to talk about a very important topic that I will let her introduce, and I'm excited to dig deeper in what it's about. Jodi, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Jodi. I am an intuitive business coach from loveyoubetrue.com, and I help healers and coaches and intuitives to package and deliver their products as a certified holistic health intuitive. And I love Sisters Rocking Courage and everything that you stand for. And Barbara is pretty amazing. So our topic today is about boundaries in your business. Boundaries in your business.
And let me just tell you, you and I know this, I had a little bit of resistance to this topic because I'm like, ooh, I don't know. But as we started thinking about it more, I can't wait to see what you're going to talk about, because I have some things where, whatever you call it, whether it's a boundary or whatever, we're all, those of us that are more successful in business, and I say us because as we get clear with what we do, we actually do have more boundaries, and they might even have bubble wrap on them, but they're still there. So where should we start talking, Jodi?
Yeah, well, and that's a good point right there too, because we have more boundaries, and where boundaries need to be set will present itself, right?
Yes.
Just by life experience. So yeah, so I thought it would be good to talk about beginning with just what does it mean to set a boundary? What is a boundary? Right?
Yes.
So when you feel into that, what is a boundary to you?
Oh, my boundaries are a little bit more warm and fuzzy. And I don't know, but again, that's what I love about this journey, right? Because there is not one way for everybody. Right. So as I talk about my warm and fuzzy boundaries, Jodi has joined us from Pennsylvania. Good morning, ladies. Such an intriguing topic. Yes. So let's get this rolling. And folks who are watching here in the replay, pop in any questions, ideas, thoughts, so we can keep the conversation going, because this one is a rich one. So what is a boundary? I look at boundaries as being things that keep me focused. We're talking about this in my greater truth. So how can I be the most powerful version of myself? And what do I need to be doing more of for that? And what do I need to be releasing? And that's why I say my boundaries are warm and fuzzy, because sometimes it's not crystal clear, and other times it takes me moving forward to start to feel that, ooh, maybe I need to have a little bit more of a boundary in this space. How's that for an answer?
That's a fabulous answer. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So when I feel into, and thank you for that input. When I feel into boundaries, in my experience, have discerned that boundaries happen across many levels, and that there are different types of boundaries. So when I felt into what does it mean to set a boundary, something that I teach in my personal intuition development class is setting boundaries around the different layers, what I call the different layers of our being, right? So we would have physical boundaries. So your house, your clothes, right?
Yes.
And then you can have mental and emotional boundaries, right? And even energetic or spiritual boundaries.
Oh.
So, so just feeling into the different types of boundaries, and those don't have to be the only ones. You could have relationship boundaries. You could, you know what I'm saying? That could span out into a world of things, boundaries in your business. So just kind of bringing that into awareness for the listeners, for the audience to be feeling into, what does a boundary mean to you? And we would love to hear about that in the comments. Like, what does a boundary mean to you? What are the areas that you could place some boundaries around?
Yeah, so Jodi is saying from Pennsylvania is saying, yeah, I like that. She's a great reference to different types of boundaries. Yeah, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's fascinating. She's saying boundaries can keep us safe, but also make us miss potential opportunities. That's where I'm always afraid of. Like, I agree with you, Jodi from Pennsylvania, because there is, I do feel like sometimes if I put a boundary in place, like, I guess that's, I'm a little all over the place on this one. So there's a part of my brain that is saying, can we put a boundary in place, and can that boundary be flexible? Can it be like during these times when you talk about the emotional or energetic boundaries? Like, if my energy is a little lower, can I move the boundary a little closer, or do I need to move it further away? So that's one of my questions, because some of my resistance is when we talk boundaries, it's almost always relational. It's almost in context of trauma. Because as trauma survivors, one of the first things they say that's part of your healing is to figure out where your boundary is, because some of us don't really have any. So can we move those boundaries, Jodi?
Absolutely. Certainly you can. And it's interesting that you bring that up, because the next thing that came in when I felt into the topic of boundaries was the different types of boundaries that we can have, right? We can have solid boundaries where this just solid walls are up and nobody can get through, right?
Yes.
Or we could have gaping boundaries where maybe if you see it as a dashed line, let me see if I can grab a darker pen. Maybe you see it as something like this would look like a gaping boundary if this is you in the center.
Yeah. So what
Right?
would be an example? I love that picture. It's very visual. What would be an example of a gaping boundary?
A gaping boundary to me would be somebody who really just lacks boundaries. Maybe they're getting too close in your space if you're talking on a physical level, like you're in my bubble, Yauch, take a step back, right?
Yeah.
A gaping boundary could be just where everybody gets in. A gaping boundary could be where you are giving to everybody else to the point that it depletes yourself, right? So those are some examples of gaping boundaries. And then there's what I would call permeable by choice boundaries, which means that you're not solid closed off and you're not wide open gaping, but you are having some openings in your boundaries.
Nice. Yeah.
Physically, mentally, emotionally, energetic, spiritually, by choice.
I was going to say, it can be good.
At your will, for the people that you choose, by your standards, your values, your choices for yourself. Makes sense?
Makes huge sense.
Yes. And so you get to choose what those look like for yourself, for your business. And you get to choose, how expanded out, who you want to include in that boundary, who you want to be outside of that boundary, whether or not you want to have the solid boundary for certain people and not for others. Whether you want to have gaping boundaries with certain people or in certain situations or not. You get to choose, and you're in control of that at all times for yourself. Yeah. For
So
yourself.
how do you flow in and out of different types of boundaries? It becomes instinctual?
I think it could become, and I think it depends on where you come from initially, your upbringing, how you've been taught, or if you've even been taught about boundaries. And so for people who maybe have come from a place of traumatic experiences, it could be that boundaries is just a new concept and it's something that is learned and becomes a practice. So I would say more than like it's a solid, you're here, you're not. It could be just a practice, and it begins with awareness.
Yeah, and it's definitely begins with awareness. And for me, what I would say is that feeling into it. And again, I'll talk as trauma survivors. We feel more intensely than our counterparts. And so sometimes we don't always have to call it a boundary, but we just know, and we can talk about the intuitive piece of this, that we just know what is good for us or what is going to get us to where we want to be. And we can talk about, like, where does a boundary go up? When you're around somebody, it's kind of easier to pick on people, I suppose. When you're around somebody where you can feel your energy change.
Mm-hmm.
Like a boundary would look like maybe backing up, putting some space. Yeah, like, are the people in your life, so we're talking about setting boundaries in your biz, and then we can talk about clients on this one. Are the people in your life that you're spending time with, are they moving you towards what you want to become? Because I love the being versus the doing. Are they helping to move you towards what you want to become, or aren't they? And then if they aren't, that's where the exploration into these soft and fuzzy boundaries, whether it's a perforated, gaping definitely requires some attention. If it's a gaping boundary, then we're losing part of ourself.
Yeah.
And if we're losing part of ourself, we can't show up to really be the person that we were intended to be.
Yes. And our soul's mission gets impeded upon, right? And it could even be that our soul gets impeded upon, which would definitely affect your business. And this is actually a good segue into what can boundaries do for your business, right? And I think the first thing that comes up, and I even see it in the comments, Jodi Newcomer said, boundaries can keep us safe. So the first thing that came up for you and for me when we were talking before we came on was safety. And it's safety for you and it's safety for your client. That's what boundaries can do for your business. So as a leader, right, in your own business, there's a couple things. So one thing I want to back up to is you also have internal boundaries and you have external boundaries. So it's also to be thinking about the boundaries that you set with and for yourself, right? Internally. What are you going to allow yourself to speak to yourself? What are you going to allow yourself to give yourself physically? If you're eating a food that you know makes you feel like crap every time you eat it and it's not good for you, there's an example of a boundary that might need attention, right? An internal boundary with the self. Of course, yeah. So taking that into consideration and laying that over top of being a person and a self that runs a business, right? Safety for you. So anywhere in and you hit the nail on the head earlier, like when you feel not safe, anywhere where you have an insecurity in your business, that's a good indicator that there could be some sort of boundary that needs attention. Not always. It could be a lack of knowledge that brings some sort of insecurity. But so let's say that I'm going to create a Facebook group. So it's something that I go over with my own clients. We talk about creating a Facebook group, and some of the people get really terrified. I don't know about a Facebook group. I don't know about, like, that's being the sphere of being seen and heard, right? Okay, step number one, what boundaries do you want around your Facebook group to help you with that? It's your Facebook group. You get to choose what the boundaries are. That could mean you go in and post once a day. It could be nobody else has the ability to post until you make a post and they just get to comment, like whatever it is for you, right? So boundaries around anything in your business. Anytime that you have that uneasy feeling of going into something, okay, what boundaries do I need to set around this externally and internally? How am I talking to myself about this situation?
So good. I work with my clients and we call it business agreements. And I never saw these agreements as boundaries. And so even like, how am I going to show up for myself? That really is a form of a boundary. Mindset. Am I going to release the things that are not working for me? It's a boundary to say, I'm going to protect. So as trauma survivors, we're very protection focused, even at a subconscious level. But what we're protecting, like as a trauma survivor, I don't always know what's best for me because my body goes in from a reactive space, right? When we're triggered, right? So if we're relying on our brain to make up the decisions, it really is, as you say, Jodi, leaning into what that feels like. And so as we move forward in our business, what is my boundary? How am I committing to showing up for myself and to showing up for my clients? And is what I'm doing in this moment feeling good? They will tell you that business and feelings shouldn't mix, but it is all about feelings because we will work faster, more productive, and other people will respond to our energy if we are feeling the most powerful version of ourselves. Some people say the best version. I just prefer to say powerful because we have, with those boundaries, we have the ability to show up in the way that we want to show up. If we are looking for someone else to show, I'm getting like jazzed about this. With some of the programs out there that are business coaching programs, we do need to set boundaries up because if somebody else is telling us to do something that does not feel right for us, now I'm not talking about doing something outside your comfort zone because the first time we do something, it will feel outside our comfort zone, but figure out with that boundary how to make it feel right, how to make it feel safe for us so we can move forward. So there is a set of boundaries. I have gaping boundaries in some areas where, in business, they talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. We'll have an ideal client that is way too broad because we're afraid that if we close in a boundary on that, that we'll have fewer clients. When in reality, you end up with more.
Yeah, because how can people find you if you're just with that wide open gaping, I'm gonna help everybody and save the world, right? Which we all want to do. I mean, if you're in this line of business, you have likely a heart to help. Amazing. You mic drop. That was just so good. Such good input.
Well, and Jodi, do you see what Jodi said?
Our thoughts and hearts are always connected, so feelings come into every decision we make. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, fabulous. Feelings have to be a part of it, but that's kind of your cue, right? Like, hey, and I feel like a lot of what you're talking about too is that coming into alignment, right? It's coming into alignment and drawing boundaries around your mission. It's more than just a business. Like, this is your mission in life, right?
Yes, drawing boundaries around your mission to protect the work that you were sent here to do.
Yes. Yeah. And so that leads us to the next, which is safety for your client, because your clients can feel that. They can feel when you're not in alignment. And clients need you as their leader, as their guide, to be in your most powerful self. And they also need to know what to expect. And it keeps you out of being in a place of landing clients where you're enmeshed, which is those wide open gaping boundaries, right?
Yeah.
That's not something we want. So
our clients are going to buy from us. Well, there's that whole know, like, and trust factor, but they're also going to buy from us because they want their life to resemble ours. They want what we have. And if we are, this was a big lesson for me, if we are working far too many hours, if we are telling everybody how hard it is, and because we've heard this to become an entrepreneur, oh, the work is so hard. When you set those little boundaries, whether they're fuzzy or what they look like, when you're doing the pieces that bring the most powerful version of you, that's when clients want more of that. They want it to be simple. They want it to be easy because we live in a busy world. And boundaries, this is a huge aha for me. Boundaries are really what get you closer to that and get people paying attention to you.
Yeah.
Now, that's not like the rigid boundaries necessarily. I mean, there are some people out there that are very attracted and need the comfort of rigid boundaries. But if you're modeling what it looks like to have healthy boundaries, I love all of the emotional, spiritually, mentally, physically. If you're showing what that looks like, yeah. Sorry, this is exciting, Jodi.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So then some questions a person could ask who might be on this in the audience here is where are you feeling insecure in your biz, right?
Ooh.
Where are you feeling that insecurity, or where are you feeling that sense of safety being interrupted? And then where could some boundaries play into that situation, right?
Yeah, so thinking to some of my recent experiences, I would say that some of the areas, how would I recognize that I needed a boundary? I love this whole picture of putting the boundary around our work, around our mission. Because oftentimes we think about the boundary being external to us. But when you look at it as being internal to us, so, but how do I need to protect my mission more?
Yeah.
And for this week, it's been about getting more clarity about who I'm talking to and how, because as we take steps, and the only way that you can get clear, action creates clarity, clarity then creates more action, action creates more clarity. So it's that ongoing journey of this circle. So as we do that, how do we protect as we move forward to make sure that we are making eye contact, communicating with the people who need to hear what we have to say? And are we saying it in a way, because earlier on, and I'm still working through it, for me, it was a challenge on how to say what I had succinctly and clearly. And that's an internal boundary.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Amazing. Yeah. And I'm looking over here in the comments, and Jodi Newcomer says, for me, a big boundary is time.
Ooh.
Yeah. So the first step of how to set that boundary then would be, first of all, just bringing awareness around, right? That there's a place in my business that I'm kind of feeling like a little bit off, like this just isn't quite aligning, or there's some fear around taking this step, or as Jodi is bringing up for in the conversation, time. So tell us more about this boundary and time, Jodi.
While she's doing that, it's interesting because I had a conversation with another sister this week about time and how, as we get clear on what we're doing, it's easier to make decisions and to get things accomplished. So it's almost as though the clearer we get, which is that boundary, the more time expands. Because now when it comes time, I can remember early on where I spent a lot of hours doing one task that I can now do in 20 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's a way that time expands, because once that one thing gets done, then you've got all of that time that has freed up to do the next thing. And as we get better at it, it flows more naturally. So that can be a boundary with time. I mean, sometimes we look at it as like, I'm not going to spend my time doing these things. But if we're putting it around our mission and we get excited and energized about what our mission is, then that draws us to do even more of that. And some of the things that we used to use as self-soothers, because let's face it, when we get overwhelmed, we need more downtime to check out, right? And so some of us play games on our phones, or, there's any number of things that we do for self-soothing that take our time from us.
Mhm. And sometimes taking that time replenishes us so that we can come back with clarity, right? And it's just kind of a dance, and it's finding that balance. And I want to share with you an app when it comes to time that I feel like is really fabulous. It's an app called Forest. And you plant trees in your forest, and it sets it for 25 minutes. And I mean, it's kind of a hardcore app because you're not allowed to go outside of the app and do anything else, or else your forest kind of dies. Like, so it puts this concept of managing your time and getting a task done in 25 minutes with a game that makes it fun. So really cool app. So yeah, that app is called Forest. And yeah, so what a little bit of what I hear you saying, Barbara, is kind of goes back to the energetic, right? So we see, Jodi says, we only have so many hours in a day. So when we are overwhelmed and have many things to do, time becomes a boundary for moving forward. Yes, absolutely. And placing that boundary around the top most important things. So it's a matter of energy. And where do you want your energy to go? So one of the things that I teach to my own students is, imagine you have 4 cups like this, and one cup is full of energy or water. And you've got 3 other cups the same size that you get to fill, right?
Yeah.
You can put this water into 3 different cups or 3 different tasks, and they're all going to get filled to maybe about right here.
Yeah.
Or you can take all of your water or energy and pour it into 1 cup and get it full so that you can move it out of the way and start to work on the 2nd cup.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying? Like you have, so we call it the 3 cups rule. You have, you have to be, so which cup is it that you want to work on? Do you want to move ahead a little bit in 3 areas, or do you want to get one done, that most important one that's going to move your business forward and also help your clients at the same time? So it's kind of drawing boundaries around with this time thing, right?
Yes.
Where you want to spend your energy as well.
Yes.
Because as entrepreneurs, I feel like there's always going to be something to do. It's never ending, right? You got to find the important ones.
Well, and so Jodi said she loves that analogy, and we have Jennifer watching also. Hi, Jen. What you're saying, I work with my clients to do one thing. It's the exact same concept. Like whatever you have on your list, because they'll usually be like, oh, next week I'm going to do this, and this. And a lot of the coaching programs out there will give you a list of like, you've got to do these, like, here's your checklist literally for the next month or the next, until we talk again. The folks I meet once a week, and I give them one thing to do. They might have others. And if they get that one, because what I found, I have this little saying, the slower we go, the faster we get there.
That's a powerful statement.
Because when you're doing one thing, what is this? It's about checking in and how do you feel? And if you're doing 6 things at the same time, you're not doing them well, and maybe not even getting them finished.
Right.
And if you're doing 6 things at one time, maybe 2 of them are the things you're supposed to be doing that are true to you, and the other 4 aren't, but you don't know because you're Sisyphus pushing the ball up the mountain, and you don't know which ones are putting you in the right direction. You're busy as heck. You can tell people, look how busy I am. But when you do one thing at a time, you can check in. How does this feel? And how do I get when I finish that one thing? Let's celebrate it. Because what do we know that celebration does? It records it in your cellular memory.
Flexes that success muscle, right?
Yes. And it shows the people around you who may or may not be supportive that you're sticking true to your word. So you're moving forward. And now you have a new view because you couldn't there's no way to know ahead of time how I'm going to feel when I finish this piece. But now that I've finished it, how do I feel and what do I think or feel that I want to do next? So what I
Yeah.
find with clients is if they just put one thing on their list, it's the only thing,
Mhm.
they can get it done in 25 minutes. I can't wait to do that for us at, because that's
Yes.
perfect. So Jodi, I know I'm like, I didn't even realize how much boundaries become such a part of a successful business.
Yeah.
You can't, so many times we want to just put our hands on our ears and sing la la songs, right? It's like, oh, this
Boundaries.
feels too restrictive. I don't want to do this to myself. Please say I don't have to. And you don't, because it becomes part of who you are.
Mhm.
Right now, we're just calling it out so we can see all of the examples that they play as we're
Mhm.
moving forward. Jodi said she likes the one thing because it is not overwhelming and then we feel accomplished. Yes,
Right.
and we have things to celebrate.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right, back to you, Jodi.
Well, and when I hear you, all amazing points. And I love how like I can just feel that you're like, oh, yeah, you're just like getting into it.
I had such resistance. I'm like, are we sure this is the topic we want to talk about? And it's perfect. Yeah.
And so when I hear you talk about this and, like even this, like when you look at this, what is this? This is a boundary. Like, I don't want to hear anymore. Right. Like it's a something that's like, oh, and so this is another level of boundaries as a business owner, is setting boundaries for yourself in terms of having that personal space for you. Right. We all have to have it, that place where you can go and fill up your cup, whether that's internally, externally, it doesn't matter. But somebody might look at boundaries in your business as, okay, well, I have to have this boundary with my clients. And yeah, you want to have boundaries around time with their clients. That could even look like, what you're willing to tolerate or what you're willing to allow when it comes to appointment setting. When I first started in business, it was just kind of like, I was that wide open, and I literally had somebody come to me once. I gave a free session to that person. This was years and years ago. They didn't show up and then wanted me to reschedule it for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, absolutely not. And they got angry because I wouldn't reschedule. Like, you won a free session. You chose to not show up for yourself. It's not my job to accommodate that. Right. But I have seen people do that, like showing up to a call and just waiting for the whole call. Like, what kind of boundaries do you want to set around respect? Going back to the time thing, respect for your time. Are you cutting it off at 10 minutes? You show up by 10 minutes or the call is forfeit and your call time is used. Like, what type of boundaries do you want to draw around that? Because those things impact your mission. If you're waiting around on people to show up and rescheduling and over accommodating day after day, you're not getting to the end goal and you're not fulfilling your mission ultimately.
And not being able to show up as the most powerful version of yourself. Right. Because there's 2 points to this. There are, I think, I should look up the number, 7 billion people in the world. So we can't each serve everybody, nor should we want to. So there's a piece of it when you're working with clients that the energy flows, whether it's clients, customers, whoever it is, that there's energy that flows. And we, as Jodi said earlier, we only have so many hours in a day. So are we spending time with, we look at it oftentimes as we're serving them, but they're serving us also.
Yeah.
And so there's that energy flow that really, as we are helping somebody else become a more powerful version of themselves, they're doing that same for us.
Yes.
It really is. You can call it a dance. There's so many different things that you can call it. It's just a partnership. Yeah. We're all in it together. So yeah, I love that. Kristen is saying accomplishment perpetuates energy for next actions. Yep. One thing is key. So yeah, that you can show them the bottle again, Jodi. I love it. And I love that it was pink. Your energy bottle.
This is all you got for the day. How do you choose to use it? You're going to fill 3 cups or you're going to fill 1 cup and set it aside so you can move on to your next one.
I even talk with people. I even talk with people really quick about, because they talk about like, how do you balance family and like creating a business? Like, how do you do both? And as part of a boundary, it's that intentionality. If you check in with everybody, if they know that they have their set time every day, and you check in either at the beginning of the day or have a set time, then they know that you're there for them. And they know that if it's something urgent, they may interrupt, but if it's not, it can wait until that time because they know that you'll be there for them. That also is another form of a boundary that really makes them feel more loved. And it allows you to free up time also to do the things that you want to be doing, because it's easy to slide into these other, especially when for me, working at home, it's easy to slide back and forth. Like you seem to be always available. But if they know that they have a certain amount of time for me, that is my undivided attention, then that is more rich than all the divided attention that they can try to take.
So good. So good. I used to do that with my daughter when she was younger, and I was in college and working full time. And I would have to, and this is a conversation I just had with my students last week or this week. And I had to go to her beforehand because there would be times where I would have tests that I had to take and they were timed. And I would say, okay, for the next hour, I'd set her all up with what she needed beforehand. And I'd be like, I cannot be interrupted. But she also knew every day, just like you said, that there would be 1 hour of my undivided attention, not cooking dinner. Like I would make dinner and then afterwards we would sit down for an hour, and she got that every day, even though I had this crazy busy schedule. But that's what she needed. And what I found was how that was born was when I found that when I gave her that undivided attention, she had her needs met and she was satisfied. But when I didn't, it was mommy, 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 right? So
yes,
amazing point.
And Brenny from Switzerland is also saying, yes, communication with all family members, even the smallest, is key. Yes, especially when it's intentional. It solves a lot of the, can I say time suck? But yeah, like when we lose time.
And constant interruptions, right? Yeah. Mommy, 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 right? When they know what to expect, you know what to expect. They know their needs are going to get met, which allows you the freedom to do what you need to do.
And again, you can do it from bubble wrap. We talked about like little bubble wrapping your boundaries. So for some people, it might be this, like you could set it with an alarm clock. For other people, it could be, well, after dinner is over. So it just depends on what style. You just have to make it fit and feel comfortable for you. So then you can become the most powerful version of you as a mom, as a business owner. As a colleague, as a mentor. Like we have these groups where we come together, like how can we show up as the most powerful version of ourselves, and what does that look like?
Yeah. And having that vision to begin with, and then going back and just touching base on, because I started to talk and then kind of weaved back out of that was the boundaries for the self, right? So that you can be your most powerful, in your words, your most powerful self. Boundaries to give you some me time as an entrepreneur, as a human being. We all need it. And that can be internal or external as well, right? Allowing yourself, I cannot tell you, I feel like it's kind of the human condition with many entrepreneurs of like, just allowing yourself to go for a walk or just allowing yourself to go have a weekend of fun, right? You always have those mental intrusions of like, gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do that, right?
Yes.
How do we set boundaries around that to be like, okay, I'm going to commit to myself that I'm going to take X number of hours, or I'm going to take this weekend and go have fun with my fiance. And I'm not going to allow this intrusion to happen. I'm just going to set this over here inside this box and let my fun time be my fun time, which is huge. Yeah. And then being willing to ask family for help. So that's something that recently came up in one of the classes with one of my students, was this willingness to be able to say, I need you to be kind of my guard to the world for just 5 minutes so that I can have just even starting with 5 minutes for myself. Because some people, taking time to yourself when there's so much to do, especially as an entrepreneur, can be difficult. And so even if it's 5 minutes in the bathroom, 5 minutes in the tub with candles, 5 minutes, going for a walk, if you can ask those around you for that support, that's important.
Yeah, and Kristen saying, again, intentionality is so important. Yes. And I think that we all can relate to living life intentionally, But it's that connection that when we do choose an intentional life, intentional decisions, that we really are, like, boundaries come along with that.
Yeah.
It's a twofer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if they don't, there's consequences, right?
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, Jodi, the conversation has gone quickly. So we're like we started a little bit later, folks. That's why I apologize that we're running a little bit late. Did you have any more nuggets? There's been so many today.
I think that's all I have written down here. I do have a boundaries and biz worksheet. If anybody would like that, then I can drop it in the comments below, or you can reach out to me and ask. Yeah. Other than that, I just would say, like, just be, mindful and present to where you're feeling kind of out of sorts in your business, and how could boundaries be playing a role in that. Yeah.
Because whether we are open to it or not, it is likely that boundaries are behind anything where we're feeling, shall we even say, feeling less than, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there's a space of having this conversation to figure out, is there a boundary that could be helpful in that space to help? Yeah. In that time.
Yeah. Even if it's a feeling of less than, then maybe it's like, okay, what do I need for myself? If you're feeling less than in a certain area, I mean, that could be multiple things, but maybe it's okay, I need a little more knowledge in this area, or okay, maybe I need to reach out to a colleague and bounce some ideas off of her or him, right? Yeah.
There's any piece of it, because even when we're looking at, I know for entrepreneurs, especially early startups, early stage entrepreneurs, it's the fear of money. There's either money blocks, or there's not enough money coming in, and there is a genuine fear. But again, we can look at that from a space of what the boundaries are, because are there enough boundaries around your mission so people can clearly, easily find you? And that's when I work with my clients, I talk about, does your language give goosebumps, chills, or tears? And I mostly work with women, but in the nonprofit world, I work with men, and they're even resonating with it. They get that if we're not creating energy, external energy, goosebumps, chills, and tears is external energy. If that's not flowing through us, then it's not a money block as much as it's just an energy block. Are we showing up for ourselves? Are we showing up for the work that we're here to do in a way that resonates with other people too? Yeah.
Powerful.
I didn't want to talk boundaries, Jodi.
And here we are.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
It all works out the way it's supposed to.
It always does. Jodi is saying, great conversation. Thank you, ladies. That's Jodi from Pennsylvania. Checking to see if anybody else has any closing comments. So Jodi Yauch, we are going to pop up a link down below for your free biz.
I got to go grab it. So
that's fine. Yeah, it'll take a minute or two. It'll be there by this afternoon. And so there's that. And then ladies, we do have the Facebook page for Sisters Rocking Courage that you can always pop on and continue the conversation. This is where this is showing, and ask your questions, and even just keep this conversation going. You have a question or a challenge, ask. That's what we're here for. We'd love to connect with you. And then Clubhouse, Sisters Rocking Courage has a room in Clubhouse. And right now we have at least one room, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Mondays we have 2, and we're getting ready to add some more rooms. And every room in Clubhouse is a conversation, whether it's being the hero of your own story, living your purpose, becoming who you're meant to be, embracing the unique in you. This is all about women, us coming together, being there and open arms, and supporting and encouraging and walking together on this journey. So if this sounds like something that you'd like to be connected to, follow up, reach out to Jodi. She's fantastic and absolutely in the energy healing field. She's working with clients all the time for them to find their way. You have the certification program?
Yes, holistic health intuitive certification program. Yep.
Yeah. So ladies, we are not alone. We know that we're not alone, and there is just magic that happens when we come together. And it's to find the space that we all connect heart to heart. eye to eye.
Yes.
So I think that's it for today. Go ahead, Jodi.
Yeah, Barbara, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for having me here today and for going with the flow in topics. You had amazing feedback, amazing points to make that I see even by the comments that were hit home powerfully for some of the listeners. And it's just an honor to continue to work with you.
It sure is. Love it. Alrighty, I'm sure we're going to be back again on Tuesday. Our courageous conversation is going to be about exploring enough. I am enough. And it's going to continue the boundary conversation to say what is enough, right? Yes. Because when we're internal inside our heads, what is enough? We don't always have an accurate read on what is enough. So this is going to be fantastic. Jodi, thanks again for spending time with us and for sharing your wisdom with the women.
You bet.
Take care, everybody. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.